today is a very exciting day because we are doing our first boil for maple syrup, which we're gonna look at later. My fiance's out there already started with everything. But first, before we go look at it, I have some bread to start. I'm making some hamburger buns because, not hamburger buns, hot dog buns, because we are going to roast some hot dogs on the fire that we have outside. And I'm a day late, but it's sourdough day today. So, and I'm making sourdough cheddar jalapeno sourdough bread. So I'm going to show you how to add your inclusion, how I like to add inclusions to my sourdough recipe, and also just how to make sourdough. I always make 2 loaves of sourdough bread, so this recipe is for 2 loaves. We always, whenever I make a cheddar jalapeno sourdough bread, the first one is gone the same day that I bake it, and then we have to stretch the second one out to last the rest of time. There are a few ways people do inclusions. This is just the way I like to do it. I find it has the evenest, the most even spread for the inclusions and the easiest way for me. So let's make sourdough. So we're going in with 725 grams of a warm water, nothing hot. You could use cold water. It'll just take your dough a little longer to start rising. And then I have my sourdough starter. Now I fed this last night and it's doubled in size, it's peaked, and it is nice. See, nice and bubbly. And we are going to add about 100 grams. So a good test to tell if you're not sure if your starter is ready to use, if you just put a little dollop in your water, it should float. If your sourdough starter floats on the water, then it's good to use. See how it's floating in the water? So we're good to use it. And then we're just gonna mix the starter and the water together. We'll always nice and easy. It gets a little foamy a lot of the time. So now we're going to add 1,000 grams of bread flour. And then we're gonna give her a good mix. And then we're gonna set her aside for an hour and come back to her. So I'm going to have this, I have this covered, and I'm going to put it near our heater here. Just somewhere warm. The warmest spot you got. Let her get nice and cozy for an hour. So now I'm just gonna whip up a quick, I keep wanting to say hamburger bun, hot dog bun recipe. If this turns out good, I'll put the recipe, the link to the recipe down below. I've never used it, but it's supposed to be like a 30-minute rise time included recipe, so we shall see, we shall see. The weather update. Weather update, guys. We can see our driveway. Are like patches near like trees and stuff like that. where grass is starting to show. I got a sunburn on my face that I had to cover. I covered up with makeup today, but like the touch of a sunburn yesterday, it's slowly coming. Slowly but surely, spring is coming. Today though is very cold, but it's raining, which will help the snow go away. But April showers bring May flowers, hopefully. So I have 12 hot dog buns, hopefully. I'm gonna cover them and let them rise for just 10 to 20 minutes. While they're rising, our oven takes forever to preheat, so I'm gonna preheat it to 425 degrees. I'm going to move these just to a cooling rack to cool off because I think we're gonna be eating them soon. But they look pretty good, so I'm gonna leave the recipe down below. The only thing I would say is if you're only doing the 3 cups of bread flour, not the 3.5, I would maybe make like 10 instead of the 12 that it calls for, just to make them a little beefier. But that also depends on how much bread to hot dog ratio you want. But yeah, I think these look, and they're very soft. I think these might be a win as long as they're cooked inside. So we are boiling sap. This is the first year I've ever done it. So my fiance is teaching me everything about it. But we have a 55-gallon drum over there that is filled with sap that we're hopefully gonna boil down to at least fit into these 3 containers. So that it is empty because the next week is supposed to be really nice weather, which is perfect for more sap. So we have quite a big setup because like I said, my fiance used to do this a lot with his papa. So he has more of a setup, but there's a lot of YouTube videos of people that make like at home, a lot cheaper versions than setups. But this is what we have. So there's 3 chambers in this big top piece, and we put the new sap that hasn't been boiled at all yet in the far one. That way, this and this that are boiling don't get interrupted by adding the cold sap to it. So we use those, and then at the bottom here there's some valves which we can just open up, and it'll let the warm sap from over here into these 2 chambers. Then once it's all done, there's another valve down here that we can drain the actual syrup out of. For our setup and the way it works, we're probably going to bring it very, very close to like the final product, and then finish it on. We have like an outdoor burner that we use for deep frying turkey at my parents, but they got a new one, so they have an old one that we can use. And put all of our syrup in a big stock pot, and then we'll boil it down to the exact like temperature. And he has a fancy machine, I forget what it's called. You put a little drop of syrup in it, and it tells you what percentage of sugar, so you can get it down to science. But if you don't have one of those, you can use just a thermometer, and you boil it to a certain temperature, and it's syrup. the stove part, the bottom section, not this, but the bottom section with the wood in it, my fiance made. He's a welder, so he made it. And it's so cool. It's so big, as you would say. So I've come in just for a second from the sap to do our stretch and folds. So you literally just sort of scoop under the bread, stretch it, and let it fold over itself. And then I rotate the bowl quarter of the way and do the same thing, scoop under the dough, let it stretch out, and I do this 4 times. So you do 4 quarter rotations, 4 stretch and folds, let it sit in the bowl covered again for half an hour, repeat 4 times. Now some people will do their inclusions with their stretch and folds. I just find it easier to do them after, especially this type of inclusion. This one's boiling. The middle one is coming to a good boil. This is the most left one. It's bigger, so it'll take a little more. And then this is the chamber that we're using to warm up the sap to a certain point. Got our dough. We did all our stretch and folds, everything. She's looking good. And I'm gonna see if I can show you guys. It passes the window pane test, which is where you pinch some dough up and you can stretch it, see through it without a lot of any major ripping until a certain point. So that's good enough for me. You could let it sit a little longer, but it's good enough for me. First thing we're gonna do is break this in half because this is for 2 loaves. So I'm gonna sprinkle my jalapenos in this. And my cheddar. And then I'm gonna fold it so it's as if it was thirds. So over, and then this one's gonna overlap. Well, and then I'm gonna put a little more, just a little, not a lot for this layer. A couple pieces of cheese in this layer. And then we're gonna fold this one over that. Like that. And then here, we're gonna do another layer with the rest. This is our last layer, so we can put sort of the rest of the cheese in here and whatever more jalapenos you want. Sort of press them in because it'll help for the next step. And then we're going to roll. Now the folding that I'm doing is the same as what I would do if I wasn't adding inclusions. The only difference is where I'm adding the inclusions. So I'm gonna fold this over to start and sort of tuck in and roll and tuck and tuck. Like this, and then we're gonna shape it a little bit. I don't overly shape my dough with inclusions because it can get messy really quickly. Because you can see all those inclusions, the lumps on here are all of the cheese and everything that I want to stay contained in this bread. And then you put them top down in your basket, and then I always pinch the bottom to keep the tension on it. The size difference of these loaves. I'm gonna cover them and I'm gonna put them in the fridge to cold proof. Normally I do it overnight, but I think today I'm just gonna cold proof them for like a couple hours and then bake them tonight so that we can have some. Okay, so it's a couple hours later and I have preheated the oven with my Dutch oven in it while preheating to 500 degrees, and then it just came to temp, so I just lowered it down to 450, which is the temperature we're going to do the first bake at. So I have my loaf with my cheddar and my jalapenos and parchment paper. I'm just gonna flip it onto the parchment paper. And because we floured it good, it comes right out. And then I like to just do a little zhuzh, get some of the excess flour off of it. So we are going to let that cook with the lid on at 450 degrees for 30 minutes. Once that 30 minutes is up, we're going to take the lid off and lower the temperature to 400 and cook it from anywhere between 5 to 10, maybe 15 minutes, just to brown the top of the dough. So it depends on your oven for that second step of cooking it, but for now, 30 minutes at 450 with the lid on. One thing I will say, I can never ever get my sourdough with inclusions to get a good ear on it. I don't know why.